First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good afternoon. Welcome in. It is a beautiful day outside yet again. Not only lucking out with the weather, but also in here in the streaming room. 2 days in a row, Tim.
Man.
We've been joined by someone else.
All-stars.
Yesterday we had Lee.
Yeah.
Today, meteorologist Robert Spetta here with us.
Fresh from being outside. You're doing something on pollen, right?
A pollen story. It may not air today, but tomorrow. Basically, we've all seen it, like the gunk on your car from the trees. They're doing something subjective to your car, and that's suggestive, I should say, to your car, and that's all that yellow gunk. So I'm going to talk about how that's just not bad for it. Yeah.
I've been feeling that pollen. Tim and I talked about it a little bit yesterday.
So
the allergies
Ross
are a
is most
real
sensitive
deal.
to the tree pollen. What are you most
really?
sensitive
Yes,
to?
very.
Tree or grass?
Tree.
Yeah.
Tree for
Yeah.
sure. Cedar is the one that really gets me. I don't
Okay.
have that too much around here, but
That's a
lot-
big one in Texas and Oklahoma, though.
And
Cedar
Lebanon.
pollen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was from Tokyo. They call it the hay fever there, and boy, it just gets everywhere.
And they have a lot of cedar in Tokyo?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh my goodness. Here it's the oka. Oak's the yellow stuff that gets on everybody's cars, right?
Yeah,
right?
like right now, yeah, you can see it on the trees, and then you can see it.
Ooh.
You can almost, like to me, on blue sky days, like today, to me, you can almost see, even on clear days, I mean, it almost looks like I don't know, like there's a glow. You know what I mean? Like you can almost see the...
Is that you actually seeing it, or are you just imagining it out?
I don't know. I just feel like the blue sky when the pollen is high just has it's like not hazy. It's there's a few bikinis and baggies on the beach.
Just gonna glow. Hey, you ever go up to one of those trees and just grab the branch and pull it down real quick, and just like the pollen goes everywhere, and then you instantly regret it. But yeah, either of you ever do that?
No.
Well, can you see this right here?
Oh my God, is that really from you grabbing a
No,
tree?
it's worse.
Oh,
It's worse. I was under an oak tree, and I was going to leave a weed alone because I hadn't been able to grab it, get it out with one hand, and I started walking away. Can you see it? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, you can see it.
And I thought to myself, Tim, you're being a slacker. And all the while, I've been aware for the last 15 minutes of a dead palm stick right there. And at the last second, I decided I'm going to get that thing with two hands. And as I aggressively leaned over, nailed myself right with that palm stick, right in the forehead. So,
Well,
not pollen.
our digital team put a great story out yesterday, talking about how Jacksonville's the 20th worst city in the U.S. for pollen. Yeah,
Nice.
So
So
great list to make.
I guess
top 20.
all of this comes back around to that.
Yeah.
Don't sneeze with us. Now, I've been told by allergists, or I don't know if that's the right term, but who would
Yeah.
be involved with allergy but also biology, that one of the reasons for us is that we're just far enough south to where we get the semi-tropical stuff that explodes all winter long, and then just far enough north to where we get the deciduous stuff that explodes.
Mm-hmm.
And so although we don't peak as bad as any city, if you add it up for 12 months,
It's year-round.
something during the 12-month, that probably doesn't help either. Something during the 12-month period, though, they say is exploding with life.
And not to get too far off topic, but last year, remember, we worked on a story together about the pollen season getting longer.
Yes.
And earlier, not only earlier, but longer just because it's warmer.
Right, things can
earlier.
grow, yeah.
So if people were like, it feels worse than it used to be, it's because it probably is. Yeah.
Well, Robert, you can probably relate to this similarly as me. Like growing up north of the Mason-Dixon, yeah, like your seasonal allergies don't really kick in until April, maybe May. Like I always remembered at the end of the school year growing up, that's when it was the worst. Whereas now it's like Valentine's Day, I'm already sneezing.
It just happens.
Yeah.
There it's when the snow melts and things actually start to grow and come outside. Here it's just, it feels almost continuous,
Yep.
right? Little off topic there, but hey.
It's all weather.
Jump in.
It's all
Yeah,
weather
right?
related.
Yes,
We were talking yesterday about the fact that we think that wind direction can actually influence, because if you get like for instance, I'll be curious about tomorrow. We get a strong flow, not just a sea breeze, but a strong flow off the ocean. Not too many trees out there that actually does flush out. Plus, as Ross has mentioned, the drier the air, the more those particulates can just kind of float around.
Yeah. Whereas if there's a little bit extra moisture, a little bit more humidity, they kind of latch onto the moisture and water droplets.
A lot of science behind it outside of just the tree is doing its thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're sneezing.
Yes.
Well, besides the high pollen, if you can handle that, it is a very, very nice day out there. Now, a little bit cooler out along the beaches and the ocean front there. And we'll talk about kind of the onshore flow that'll be increasing over the next couple of days. But 80 degrees in Jacksonville. Many areas inland are warming up quite a good bit. I mean, check out Gainesville there. 87 degrees outside right now.
Cranking.
Wow.
And it's dry.
We just had a fire in Hilliard, just outside of Hilliard. They were talking about it here a little while ago. It looks like it was mostly contained, but it was right on the fringe of the town. And it just goes to show, it's that time of year. We can get, since it's so dry and even with a little bit of a breeze and the vegetation is dry, it can spread fairly quickly.
Really have to be careful. But look what happens near the coast, especially St. Simon's. I noticed St. Simon's has dropped to 68. Their dew points come up to 58, and then look who has the highest RH.
Yeah.
So that should be spreading inland, a bit today. Oh, there you go. Nice graphic,
Nice.
Ross.
Look
Wow.
at that.
Dries out again tomorrow, but maybe not quite as much. Although inland, wow, they're still pretty low.
Yeah, I think the I-75 corridor looks still rough tomorrow, but it does look like it will slowly creep further and further inland. The moisture and the relative humidity values will start to come up at least a little bit there.
Yes, and I guess I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I want to make sure, as much as we're talking about dry air leads to particulates and pollen getting up your nose, on the other hand, for those that do like these cool nights, that can happen because it's not humid, enjoy it, because we will become increasingly humid, I would say, starting later tomorrow and Friday and then through the rest of our 7-day outlook, right?
Yeah, especially into the weekend and early next week. Yes, and Tim, we will talk about that. You're always jumping ahead.
I was really
we
trying
got time to talk,
and
Tim.
my wife says that too. And what I was trying to focus on, make sure you enjoy these cool nights. Now, in other words, those who I think come from a news perspective, even though intellectually they know things are going to change, they tend to look out the window and say, oh, it's going to stay like this.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure people who like these cool nights, like to open up the windows, do it while you can, because we're about ready to have a deluxe change in the dew point.
Deluxe change.
There we go.
Dew point. Like that.
Well, let's talk about, Tim, one of your favorite things, the stormiest spots in the nation here. So South Texas and kind of Northeast Texas moving out of southern Oklahoma, a little bit of some rain and storms, but
Look
a
at that
big old
spiraling
system
low.
up there in the
Wow.
Pacific Northwest. Check that out.
Doesn't take a weatherman to tell you that's a storm system cranked up.
I didn't personally check it myself, so I'm gonna put you two on the spot. Did any of you check what the pressure is?
I was just thinking that.
See, just the first.
I
I'm
was
gonna look
just
it up
thinking
right
that.
now.
Here, before you look it up, I'm going to guess that it's about 980.
What do you think there, Ross? Or do you already know?
I have no idea.
All right, I'm gonna try to pull it up here while we're still looking ahead.
Now, here's what's
see
wild
what
to me. We
got.
talked about this earlier. So the only place where the Severe Storms Forecast Office has taken the severe level to slight is, amazingly to me, in March, coastal Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, pretty much from Eugene, Oregon up to Seattle.
Yeah, so because I haven't looked at it real closely, my guess is,
And they do have a tornado risk there.
okay, so where that low is, my guess is they're getting just enough of an east-southeast flow, so they're getting heat come in.
Yeah.
And then at some point, that energy is going to rocket over them from like the south and southwest.
Yes. Yeah, I briefly read the Storm Prediction Center discussion on that, and that's essentially kind of what they're talking about. But yeah, I mean, you don't often see the word supercell used in Washington or Oregon.
No. It'd be interesting talking to the Mets in Seattle.
Yes.
Are they talking to any severe people saying, hey, what should we be looking for?
Yeah, because they don't deal with that very often,
No.
right?
Sometimes they get what I call the cold core instability, right? Because it's so cold aloft. Mm-hmm. But I think this is like a real...
No, it's pretty warm out there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the whole western third of the U.S. has been abnormally warm.
I think
the
there were
last several
even
days.
some record warm lows. Okay, Robert's got it.
Well, first, Ross, what did you say?
I said 980.
What do you think, Ross? I'm gonna put you guys on the spot here.
978.
Ross got it. 978 millibars off that you win all the prizes, sir. And just so for everybody at home, I'm sure most people watching this get it, but the lower the pressure, especially compared to the high pressure next to it, it's a subtle indicator of the intensity. It's not always a direct one-to-one correlation of the intensity, but 978 off the Pacific Northwest is a pretty
low. Another perspective I put this in, and I want to be careful here because it's not a hurricane, but when we look at hurricanes, especially back in the days before we had a lot of data, that once the barometer got below about 988 millibars, we would assume that's probably about a Cat 1. So although that low doesn't have a eye wall, folks, if you're just talking about the general energy that storm has, it's down around the energy of a hurricane with 980 millibars.
Now, you
or
want to
978. So heading toward a Cat 2 as far as energy.
You want to talk about someone who had some energy this morning. I told you I had a surprise for you, Tim.
Okay.
Our guy Andy back here.
The man behind the curtain.
15 minutes after waking up this morning, he said, he went for a mile run.
And
now, we've been talking about running in here a lot with the Gay River Run, back at the beginning of the month. Andy is not a runner. He didn't run it with Anthony and I or you.
He's not from Kenya. He's not a natural runner, but he did it.
And he texted us afterwards and said his legs felt like Jell-O.
Andy, we're proud
But
of
he
you.
completed it.
We're proud of you. Bravo.
Congrats to Andy.
Bravo.
Let's get that motivation.
Now make sure you write down your time, Andy, so that then you have something to point toward. You don't have to share it with us.
Yeah.
But so that from a year from now, when you're heading toward 4-minute miles, you can go, man, and I started with whatever.
Andy, do you think that might be a good time to take a break? We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll come back, actually delve into tonight's forecast and also the next 7 days. We do have some rain and storms on the way, so the three of us will have more on that here for you coming up after the break.
Cut the cord, get the app, stream free. Download the First Coast News Plus app, your trusted source for news, your weather, all your sports, and so much more on your time. Yeah, your schedule. It's your most accurate forecast, your weather impact alerts, extended breaking news coverage, and exclusive specials at a time that is convenient to you and your family. Download First Coast News Plus and watch for free, right now.
I knew I needed physical therapy to be able to get back to doing the things I want to do, specifically golf.
Throughout Brooks Rehabilitation, with the 50-plus locations we have, we see people with many injuries across the board. We're really looking to individualize a treatment plan and create goals together. That way they can get back to the sport or activity they love to do.
I would definitely recommend Brooks to anyone who needs physical therapy. It enabled me to get back on the golf course to do what I want to do.
Nothing breeds competition and camaraderie in a community like sports. It gets your adrenaline pumping. Sports has a unique way of bringing people together. Your First Coast sports team understands that. We go beyond the X's and O's and to the heart of the game, where wins don't always make winners and the L's don't necessarily make losers, and where the highlights sometimes mean more than the trophy. It's where the real stories are told.
Sports Finals sponsored by Farrah and Farrah, Sunday nights at 11:30 and streaming on First Coast News Plus.
Welcome back in, folks. We've been talking about how beautiful of a Wednesday and hump day it is out there. And really, if you have any evening plans, it'll be a nice night to either, have a patio dinner, grill out with the family or the kiddos tonight, as temperatures stay in the 60s, probably until about midnight or so
Good
tonight.
sky gazing night.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Clear skies.
Check me, Robert. I don't think I'm being tangential, right? I mean, this connects right with that. Because it's a new moon. It's almost a new moon.
I'm not going to get too far into the weeds because then we want to stick on track.
No, because weeds get us back to pollen.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But last night I was actually looking at the Orion Nebula because it was so clear, beautiful, and just gorgeous out there. So.
Now, do you know how you can tell we're approaching the new moon by looking at the tides?
No, tell me.
That whenever we have high tide near 8 o'clock in the morning, it's either the new moon or the full moon.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, because what, high tide's at like 7:13 or something like that?
Yep.
For
and we got
Jack's
just
Beach?
barely the fingernail. And then normally, even without looking at anything, and this is how I spend my time over the last 43 years, without looking at anything, that if you know when the high tide is, and it's near the real point is on the day in which high tide is within 30 minutes of the setting sun, then that's either going to be the full moon or the new moon.
I'm just reading one of the comments, and somebody did just say, dry, windy, and low humidity, what's there to discuss? And then the pollen.
Yeah.
There you go. You got it.
Now, is that a supporter or somebody being a smart
no,
aleck?
it is support. And they're here to chime in on.
We feel the love.
Take it away, Ross. So sorry to get off.
Yeah,
No,
come on,
you
Ross.
guys are good.
Take us down the road.
Well, all right. So let's turn the chapter here into Thursday tomorrow. Really, the only change is going to be a little bit more of a northeast or east-northeast flow. So it'll be a little bit breezier. I think coastal areas might struggle to get out of the 70s. Tim and I talked about this some yesterday. St. Thomas Island being one of those.
Yeah.
Might be stuck in the upper 60s. But I do think, inland locations could still be a little bit warmer. So we'll have our largest kind of gradient of temperatures or, variety of temperatures across the First Coast tomorrow out of, I think, any day here this week probably.
Nice onshore breeze there.
Yeah. Should be feeling pretty good.
Ask Tim, and I'll cool the water.
I'm trying not to talk and get tangential. I'm just going to listen for a while.
Tangential.
Is it tangential?
Because it's a tangent.
It's a
tangential.
tangent. Good point. Tangential. Tangential. I can't say.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to be your new warm-up.
All right.
for the
man.
show.
Around the rough and rugged rock, the ragged rascal ran around the tangent.
That's what Tim says before every single show.
His mic check every day. All right. Well, you get the main point, though, right? A little bit cooler tomorrow, breezy, even perhaps breezier or even windy at times along the beaches and the coastline on a Friday, and that's when we're kind of talking about
Here comes the tough part.
The increase in the low level moisture there, especially by Friday and into the weekend, as Tim kind of alluded to earlier at the start of the stream here.
Tangential. Man, I'm really going to have to work on that. That's a hard one for me. Sorry, guys. So we talked about it's going to start getting humid. Watch what happens to the dew points.
Yeah, check it out. This is going to be Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, so it's not,
Mid-60s.
we're not into the tropical 70 yet, but they're starting to crank up. It's one of the reasons why I've been saying I like to start have fun with this as far as the river and ocean temperature. I think first the river, and by this weekend, and I think the surf temperature by Sunday or Monday is going to be up at about 70 degrees. So check and see if we're close on that. So what do you think, guys? So to me, if you want to have the closest thing to a guaranteed dry day this weekend, you'd probably pick Saturday versus Sunday, right?
Oh,
Certainly so, yeah. Yeah, I think maybe isolated shower or two out towards I-75, but overall, Saturday's rain chances look fairly slim. Sunday, on the other hand, perhaps not so much so. Tim, I know you and I kind of debated what we were expecting Sunday into Monday yesterday.
Go 40 or 60. I'm totally with y'all that we're going to have showers and thunderstorms. What I'm curious about, and this is probably more the old guy where the models weren't as good as they are now, but I do remember being caught off guard so many times where something like this was coming at us across the Gulf, and then you could see it just blow up at like 28 degrees at, say, latitude in the central Gulf, and then we get this cirrus shield and a few showers, but then central and south Florida get all the thunderstorms as it head west to east. And at least under some scenarios, that tended to be if the subtropical jet stream didn't actually connect with the polar. And so you see it go more east-west, that right where that gradient is, where the subtropical jet and the upper level winds, I'm talking about 250 millibars, where that drops off, it seemed to be like that's like you can sort of imagine a difluent zone, and there's plenty of moisture, that it blows up there and then doesn't, so the energy gets drawn in there. And I was looking at the 250 jet, and as we get into Saturday and Sunday, it does not connect with the polar.
It stays pretty far south,
it
down
does.
towards Miami.
And so I'm curious to see if how much of that then causes them to get locked in, and maybe we don't have as much. But anyhow.
And when you mention the cirrus shield,
yeah,
in layman terms, that's really just kind of high clouds limiting the daytime heating throughout the day. So perhaps not nearly as much convective activity Sunday afternoon.
Right on. Exactly. So it might sound counterintuitive to people, but under these situations, and this will happen more and more as we get toward latter part of spring and summer, is that actually, if it is humid, you want to see the verification of the thunderstorms, you actually want to see some sunshine. At home it may seem the opposite, but we're getting to a time of the year where you actually have to have the heat, as Ross mentioned, for a convective scenario to form.
I think a lot of people a lot of people think when they think of the really potent thunderstorms is you do think of like that lone cell that's sitting there versus just a traditional everything's clouded over. Yeah. I mean, our summertime thunderstorms are kind of like that. You get the sea breeze pop up and you get those really powerful ones. That's because all that heat builds in and it allows them to develop. So that's Hopefully we don't see that on Sunday. That'd be nice. Just kind of clouded over. A little muggy, but not too bad.
Yeah.
And then perhaps another round late Monday. You can see the cold front kind of working its way in. It looks like maybe the greatest thunderstorm risk is going to be across southeast Georgia, and then kind of weakening as it continues to transition to the east and southeast, but also a fairly tricky forecast there. So
there it is.
Yeah, for Sunday, the Mississippi River Valley, pretty much all the way from Columbus, Ohio, down through East Texas, is going to be included in the slight risk of severe weather. So that's a level 2 out of 5. But then as you transition into Monday, and again, this is going to be kind of later Monday and perhaps overnight and into early Tuesday morning, that's when we will have, I think, a better chance for some severe storms. So the severe risk, would you say on Sunday, going to be relatively low? We could see thunderstorms.
Yeah, I think so. As long as folks remember that when we say severe here, we're talking about damaging thunderstorms from wind and or hail. And I say that because very often if we have a storm with lightning, which no doubt is a major danger concern, right? But that doesn't technically get under severe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you can go golfing, but if you got lightning in the area, don't be like, hey, they said it wasn't going to be severe.
Don't be the one holding up the flag on the putting green.
Yeah, try not to be that.
Yeah.
Andy, do you want to pop up the 7-day real fast and we'll wrap it up here? So enjoy the sunshine and the dry skies at least the next 2 to 3 days. Showers, isolated storms on the way by Sunday. Perhaps a strong to severe storm risk on Monday. And staying pretty warm into early next week as well. Mid-80s, so warm, humid. Pretty much a 7-day outlook for you out there.
Go straight toward it, Ross. No tangent there.
Hey, trying to stay on point.
Start with this next time.
Yeah. Get the.
Why do we come here? To reach for new heights, to dive to new depths. You can call it a team, even a community. That connection with others. We all deserve that. So why come here? This is why.
Swing into luxury, where golf and community come home. Located in St. John's, Florida, Stillwater is a premier 55